So I guess the first part of this might be entitled "How do you load or batch images into a Photoshop file into a stack?" So I've got a whole bunch of images that have come out of a screen capture session that I did, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a file and go to scripts and go to load files into stack and browse, and I have found my images. I should cancel that and show that a little better, I guess, because it's the other dialog box is showing up on my other screen, which is not very instructive. So I'll do File, Scripts, Load Files into Stack, bring this dialog box over so everyone can see what I'm seeing. You browse, and then you go to wherever it is that the images are. They're in my H drive in another file for assignment number 14, part 1, photo album. So I'm going to select all of these images and bring them in. You can see that it'll load, and when it's ready you can say OK, and it'll start loading them. There'll be one little dialog box at the bottom of the stack that's saying load layers, and it just marches down through the stack and loads all of the images that were in that photo album into one Photoshop document in a stack. Takes a little while for this to happen. I've got 33 images, 31 images rather. So it's going to take a little while to get them all in. And the thing about it is that they're fairly large. And so I'm going to need to reduce them in size in order for them to work in a Premiere document that I'm going to use, because they're way too large, way too big. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to zoom out so that I can see all of them. I'm going to move my rule lines, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce these in size to 11 by 18 in the hopes that they will then be proportional enough to fit inside of a Premiere document. Make sure that I'm on 11 here. There we go. I'm going to zoom back out now. And what I can do is I can take the entire stack, top to bottom. I hold Shift and select them all. And then I can go up here to Edit, Transform, Scale. And I can bring them all down in one fell swoop. The nice thing about working in Photoshop now is that you don't have to hold down the Shift key to constrain them, which I can't quite understand why Photoshop decided to do that to Photoshop, but not to any of the other apps. And I'm going to move it down so that I have a proportional amount of space top to bottom. And then I'm going to recrop the whole stack of images so that they are now crop. And yeah, come on, image crop. There we go. So that they are now all proportionally the same size and hopefully will fit into Premiere. So now all I got to do is go down through the stack one at a time and add a black band top and bottom to close off. It doesn't seem to want to work. I don't know why. All of that clear space top and bottom. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to pause this so that you don't have to suffer through me doing all 31 images. Okay, now that I have all of the images with the added black band top and bottom, as you'll notice, this document is not titled Untitled. And I'm going to do File Save As. And I'm going to save it back to the H drive in the location where it's supposed to go, which is inside of the Creative Suites, inside of day 19, I think, 14 part 1. And it's going to become not the photo album, but it'll become the slideshow for this. And I'm going to probably should entitle it assignment 14.1 slideshow, so I don't get confused with other things, and save it to that location. So then I'm going to pause this again while I get Premiere up and show you my problem that I'm having inside of Premiere when I bring these documents in, and hopefully you can give me some advice. So then, here is the horns of the dilemma that I find myself on right at the moment. I have saved that slideshow. It is in a folder off to the left here on my dual monitor that you can't see. I'm going to drag it into Premiere, which I have open. The on-screen prompt on the other side is asking me whether or not I want to merge all the layers, and of course I don't. I want them as individual slides, and I say OK, and it creates a folder for me of the images. Now here's the problem. So I open up the images and I drag them to the timeline. These are the images that are going to show up as a slideshow to my narration. Now here's the problem I'm having, and maybe it's not so much of a problem with this one, but very often what will happen is that I'll open up the image and let's do fit. This one isn't so much of a problem, but usually what happens is that they'll come in. Let's drag in the next image and see if I can't get it to do what I want it to do. Where's number 2? Must be at the top. There it is. Let's go to number 2 and we'll see if it's... That's not so much of a problem, but usually what I've got is that the image is so small in the space that what I have to do is click on the image, double click on it, and then drag it open. Excuse me, which is a bit of a problem because then all of the images tend to sometimes fluctuate in size if I don't do them all at the same time. For some reason or another, my ability this time, and it may be the way that it was saved out of Photoshop, and it may have to do with what resolution that I saved these images at in the other document. I'll have to go back and take a look at that and find out whether or not... I'm sure that if you save the entire slideshow at 300 dpi, it will be different than if you saved it at 72 dpi. In which case, if it's a 300 dpi document, when you come to drag it into into Premiere, the images may appear to be quite small, in which case you've got to drag them open because they're so much larger of a file. But here's my question, Pete. Is there an optimal size that I should be saving all of my images to in Photoshop that will ensure that when I bring them into Premiere, they'll end up looking more like this than my previous problem, which is then to have to drag them open to a larger size? So when you get a chance, if you could answer me back on that one, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you. All for now.